Welcome, everybody, to the latest issue of geek-span. I hope you're ready for your geek culture 411. I'm your host, as always, Wes, and with me today is my good friend, Skip and Tosh. How you doing, buddy?
Man, doing good, man. So glad that you're back from the trip. It looked like it was a really good trip, and I missed talking about comics with you. I got to talk comics. I always talk comics, but talking comics with you is special, and talking about comic book news for all the people that watch Thinking Critical, just puts the icing on the cake. So I'm excited, man. I'm ready to do this.
Well, things are going to be a little bit different. There is so much movie and TV show news. We actually don't have much comic book news, but I think people are going to be happy. A lot of Star Wars stuff. And speaking of which, news recently broke that Disney Plus's Obi-Wan series is on indefinite hiatus because Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy is unhappy with scripts. Under Kennedy's leadership, interest in Star Wars is at an all-time low. Obi-Wan is now the latest in a string of production nightmares. Should Kathleen Kennedy be fired?
It's so hard to say no, man. It's so hard to say that she shouldn't be. I mean, and they've got their financial reasons, why she doesn't have to be let go right now, and they've got their, reasons to save face and everything. And I think at this point, I believe at least the portion that they paid George Lucas, I think they've made that money back at this point between the three movies. But all the other money that they invested in all the toys and the theme park and all that stuff, I don't think they've recovered it in full. And it was almost like a no-brainer that would have all been recouped by now, and they should have been way farther along financially and doing better. And also just, fan appreciation and the fans being on the same page. The Rise of Skywalker, I don't know how much it really did to bring everybody together. It almost seems like people kind of went farther in the directions that they were going. So something that was like you could have hit a home run with the ball on the tee. I don't understand how it's been hard for Kathleen Kennedy to even get on base, man. So I think she needs to be replaced as soon as possible. Wes, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, they looked around. They tried to do this a little over a year ago, and it turns out that she had so many supporters within Lucasfilm that it would have been impossible to remove her and have anything move forward. But, this is the latest in a string. Lord and Miller with Solo. Colin Trevorrow was supposed to do the ninth episode of the Star Wars legacy drama. Finish off the Disney Star Wars trilogy. And now we have this. Star Wars actually has momentum now with The Mandalorian. Everyone loves that show. People are ready for the next live streaming Star Wars show to feature Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Obi-Wan in the original trilogy was easily the highlight. People are ready to go revisit that character and have new stories with him. This is an absolute disaster. It's a nightmare. Should she be fired based on her performance? Yeah, she probably should have been fired already, but will she be? Probably not.
No, not soon enough, unfortunately. Not soon enough. But along with the Star Wars news, we're going to keep that rolling. According to the Hollywood Reporter, Lucasfilm is courting Taika Waititi to develop a new Star Wars film. Waititi directed Thor Ragnarok and Disney Plus's The Mandalorian finale, and is helming Thor: Love and Thunder. Is this a good direction for Star Wars, Wes?
No, this is terrible news. I like Taika Waititi. He's funny. I really liked his original indie film, The Hunt for the Wilder People. That was a lot of fun. Those are all great. But his Thor Ragnarok sucked. It was the terrible tone of the story. It doesn't fit in with the first two movies. He turned it into a yuck gag fest. Well, guess what? The worst part, besides his treatment of the original trilogy characters, of Ryan Johnson's uh, Star Wars film was all the yucks. It was the terrible jokes. It was not taking the world seriously. You put Taika Waititi on that, he will not take Star Wars lore seriously. He doesn't really care about what fans and longtime customers think, and he'll just use it to make more jokes. So no, it's a terrible direction for Star Wars. and I was severely disappointed to hear they were even considering it.
Yeah, for me it's tough. I didn't get to see the finale of The Mandalorian, so it's hard to judge it off that. I did watch obviously the episode where he was in as the droid, and I mean, to Wes's point, it was very comedic. Although there was a serious part, and I feel like they did ultimately use the droid properly, but Taika didn't write that episode, and he didn't direct that episode, so it's interesting for me. I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok, but I agree, like the characterization of Thor and everything, like that's that's not the God of Thunder. Like that it absolutely wasn't. And I thought that they were going to take more notes from the Unworthy Thor book by Jason Aaron, which actually was a really good book and had some really amazing things seeded in there, but yeah, they just took like the haircut, really in kind of some of the Warrior's Rage or whatever, like his version of like the Berserker Rage. So yeah, and as much rain as they would probably give him, because I mean, think about this: if Kevin Feige has a tighter grip than Kathleen Kennedy letting Lord and Miller film 75-80% of Solo, and then going and seeing, oh, they're not sticking to the script. If you let Taika into that kind of freedom of the creative space, if you want to talk about things getting far out, and I don't mean to, pardon the pun, they're gonna get far out. It may not be, it may be an enjoyable material as far as comedy wise, but I don't know that it's gonna stay true enough to the essence for me.
Definitely
Oh,
not the right creative voice for Star Wars, in my opinion. Now, on to another creative voice that didn't get his chance. Colin Trevorrow confirmed recent leaks of concept art for his planned Star Wars Duel of Fates film that was to conclude Disney's new trilogy are in fact real. Is this further confirmation that production on Disney's Star Wars trilogy was an unmitigated disaster?
easily, easily. Like the second that Colin Trevorrow dropped out, I knew that there was an issue because I'd already known that he had met privately um, with Mark Hamill on ideas that he had for it, and that was before the what you call it had come out. That was well before it came out. I think I don't even know if he was fully aware of everything that Ryan Johnson was doing at the time. Because why are you meeting with Mark Hamill privately if you know that he's not really going to be accessible in the movie? Colin Trevorrow is from the Bay Area. He's from Oakland, essentially, which is right below Marin County, where Skywalker Ranch and all that stuff is. So, for people like us, like I live in Sacramento, Modesto, where George Lucas is from, is just 90 minutes below me. It's right past Stockton. So, like you have a strong sense of that if you're in the Bay Area or if you're in this area where George Lucas was roaming around as he was coming up with these ideas, and someone who was so close to it and then had an opportunity to be a part of it and met privately with George Lucas as well, and had a good relationship with Dave Filoni and all these things. He was priming us for what would have been easily a much more satisfying Star Wars movie than what we got in The Rise of Skywalker. But of course, the second that oh, what? Luke, he's not even available anymore. He's probably like, whatever, I'll keep my mouth shut. And I love the title, by the way, Duel of the Fates, way better than The Rise of Skywalker. But he kept his mouth shut. And the second that this movie was out, and the second that he can talk and know it wasn't negatively impacted, or he wouldn't get a lawsuit, he's just like, "Yep, that's real. Yep, that's real. That script." Mm-hmm. Wes, what do you think about Colin Trevorrow? Kind of chirping up a little bit more.
I like it. The concept art is cool. It looked like it was a more cohesive story. It was a better direction for the film. Ryan Johnson basically took a dump on everything J.J. Abrams did, and then everything Colin Trevorrow was building towards. And at that point, he couldn't do the film anymore because it wasn't going to be what he was promised and what he was going to work on. J.J. Abrams did his best to salvage everything. He had to go back and basically undo all the things he started that Ryan Johnson ruined. That's why Rise of Skywalker has pacing issues and isn't able to really work on characterization and fleshing things out because he has to go back and undo everything just so he could move the story forward. And it's
Right.
just a shame that Colin Trevorrow wasn't able, to see it through. Is he a sterling creator with a bulletproof resume? No, he's had a dud or two here and there, but it looks like he was on point to make a fantastic finale of Disney's Star Wars trilogy, and Kathleen Kennedy dropped the ball so hard and just, it's one unmitigated disaster after another under her leadership at Lucasfilm. And what could have been, my friend?
What could have been indeed. Well, now we'll talk about what will be here soon. Warner Brothers recently signed Hollywood A-lister J.J. Abrams to an exclusive mega deal to produce television and film. According to Deadline, Abrams' production company Bad Robot is in the early stages of developing DC Comics' Justice League Dark into a film and television properties. Which would you prefer, though, Wes? A Justice League Dark TV series or film?
That's a tough question. I think it's gonna have a big cast. Right now Wonder Woman is basically the star of Justice League Dark in comics, so I'm gonna take her out of the equation. There's no way that they're gonna make her the feature character for the movie or TV show. So I'm assuming it will be a Zatanna led series. Also, a prominent member of Justice League Dark is normally Swamp Thing, who had his own series at DC for DC Universe. So I don't know if they'll be able to bring him in. Plus, you also have Constantine, who also had his own TV show and movie. So I'm not sure which characters will be available. So I'm assuming it's going to be a Zatanna-led property. I think it would probably work best as a TV show, probably streaming for HBO Max or something like that. But I think it'd be really cool. Justice League Dark is such an awesome concept, and it's been executed really well, especially by James Tynion. So I'd be really excited about this. But I think a TV show is the way to go. And definitely, you got to have Detective Chimp, who's been the standout character in the latest edition of Justice League Dark.
Yeah, I agree. I think at first I was like, man, I would just want the production value, to be that of a film. But so many TV shows get really good and nice big budgets and make things work. And really great actors aren't shying away from TV roles anymore. I mean, we're well into the age of, even A-list actors and whatnot, like taking on roles in TV shows and whatnot. So I think Justice League Dark would serve better as a television series. It would allow us to have more time with the characters, and being that it's gonna be introducing characters like Zatanna and Deadman, like characters that the average viewer, the casual fan, is not so familiar with. Television would allow them to kind of flesh out their stories a little bit more, give you a little bit more time with them, instead of film where it's just like boom, here, oh okay, I'm here, oh yeah, here goes this person. So yeah, good call, Wes. I would roll with television as well.
All right, Skip. Indie comic superstar Rick Remender recently signed a 3-year deal with Sony Pictures Television to develop his own creator-owned properties. Seth Rogen and Shazam director David F. Sandberg are executive producing the first project, Fear Agent, for Amazon. Is Rick Remender ready to take a Mark Miller-esque leap into streaming and television?
I believe he is. And Fear Agent is not a Remender book that I've read. Obviously, it's on the list to read now because a show is coming out about it. I'm a big fan of Deadly Class. I really, really, really enjoy the Deadly Class comic. I'm a little bit behind on it now, but it was just an awesome comic. And then when I heard it got turned into a TV show, it was right before I went to a con, and I actually met Rick Remender, and he was telling me about it. He told me that he was going to be the showrunner, and I was like, oh, I feel so much better knowing that you're going to be on set. He's like, I'm going to be on set every day. I was like, dude, I feel so much better. And that show, as far as like a piece of comic book property being adapted into the show, so underrated. The music was so good. The acting was on point. They adapted it from the comic very well and changed the perfect amount of things. Remender was a showrunner on that, so he has the experience. I think that experience and how well the show was executed, it wasn't promoted, I feel like, very well. And the Russo brothers actually were the executive producers too, so that's why it had such good money behind it and all that. But I just don't feel like it was. I don't feel like it was marketed very well. I don't think that's going to be the case this time, and it doesn't have to be marketed the same way too. His experience being a showrunner definitely preps him for this, and I'm very excited and happy to him. And especially, I know Rick Remender had gone through some very tough times in his personal life outside of the show not being renewed for a second season with Deadly Class. Had some personal things happen in his life, and the way that his year ended was not fantastic. The way that his year is starting is awesome. So I am so happy for him to have this opportunity. But Wes, what do you think? You think that Remender? You think you remember got what it takes? Can he cut it?
Absolutely. It's such a shame that he's not at Marvel Comics right now. He should be there with Jonathan Hickman helping to shape the direction for Marvel. But basically, he was mistreated. He had people conspiring against him while he was there, basically from the writers' creative room that they had, and they basically forced him out of Marvel. And it was ridiculous that even happened. He was so much more talented than all those people, and it was jealousy and envy that he actually had creative talent that forced him out of there. But he has taken those lemons and made lemonade because his creator-owned properties at Image are fantastic. The man is a sci-fi genius. I hope that they concentrate on his sci-fi properties. uh, Black Science would make a fantastic 4 or 5 season run on a streaming platform. It is
Yep.
made for that. I cannot
Yep.
wait to see something like that. I just started reading Low. That's got a lot
Yeah,
of potential as
dude.
well.
Yep.
So
Low.
absolutely, Remender is ready for this. He's got the properties, he's got the writing chops, he's got the creative ability, and he's got the motivation for the way he was screwed over by Brian Michael Bendis and some others over at Marvel to stick it to him and show him that he was the talent all along.
I fully agree. And it's so funny. Out of the three, Ed Brubaker, Rick Remender, and Jonathan Hickman, I thought Hickman would be the like I knew Ed Brubaker wasn't going back just from hearing all of his interviews. And if you read Criminal, you read the back of it. Remender, I was pretty sure he wasn't going to go back either, but I thought Hickman was completely done. So I don't know. There's a chance, but you know what? Remender is moving in this direction, and I'm super happy for him. So keep making the great comics because you're just rifling those off one after 7 to Eternity, and all of them are so good. So thank you, Rick Remender. I love writers like Rick Remender. And speaking of television and comic book related stuff, Greg Berlanti is producing an up and coming Green Lantern series for streaming service HBO Max. HBO's Sarah Aubrey said Green Lantern will, quote, span several decades, end quote, and focus on, quote, 2 stories about Green Lanterns on Earth, end quote, and go, quote, into the Sinestro story, end quote. That's a lot of quotes there. Is a Sinestro-centric story the right direction for Green Lantern, Wes?
Absolutely, man. There's so much cool stuff in there. You can. Sinestro's got a great character arc. He starts out, he's the trainer for Hal Jordan, or he's more like his mentor, and he basically turns on the Green Lantern Corps. He gives into the yellow, the power of fear, and basically becomes a sworn enemy of the Green Lanterns. In Sinestro Core Wars, if you wanted to do that for 2 seasons, I can't even imagine. That would be one of the coolest things ever, but I can't imagine the budget that it would take to actually do it. But yes, if you want to do Green Lantern and you need to have a good, powerful villain, Sinestro is right there where it's at. That or Parallax, I guess, which they're somewhat interweaved, depending on the story that you're reading. So absolutely, this is definitely the way to go. I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. Hal Jordan's my second or third favorite comic character of all time. Definitely my favorite DC character, and I couldn't be more excited about this. It sounds like they're going in the right direction. Please give me Sinestro Cold War.
And can we get some Venditti in there too?
Just absolutely.
Yeah, I think the Sinestro story is a solid place to start. Obviously the movie is way over here, and it didn't nearly get into it as much. It didn't have the time, nor do I think it was really coherent enough to really dig into Sinestro the way that the TV series could. Greg Berlanti is more than knowledgeable enough. I think the writing team would be really good. The 2 different stories I'm kind of interested in. Like, I want to see how they juggle that, because when it comes to stuff like this, properties that have already kind of been mishandled, I kind of shy away from people being so ambitious. But if they have a good reason for it, and if those 2 stories are Hal Jordan and Sinestro, then okay, I'm game for it. But in today's age, where people are dealing with a lot of depression and anxiety, and that it's along with it being a buzzword, it's a reality for a lot of people. I think it's the perfect time to bring up the story of two people and how you could how faith and will can combat fear. And so I think it would be awesome, man.
All right, glad to see you're excited as well. That should just about do it for today's geek-span. We covered a lot of cool news, lots of Star Wars news, movie news, TV news, streaming news, streaming news. Skip, do you have anything to say before we sign off?
Yeah, if you guys are looking for an office chair or a gaming chair, consider Taboo Ohana. Links are in the description. Skip TC gets you $40 off the chairs, and it goes to a very good cause as we help out orphans. And other than that, yeah, just keep tuning in. Check us out live on Twitch. That's where we are recording these shows, so you can come be a part of the conversation a little bit. But of course, the chat is right down there, so please leave your comments in the comment section and come into our Discord. Talk to us. Share some comic book panels. Tell us what you're writing. Tell us what you enjoy reading. We'd love to talk to you there.
All right, later, everybody.
Bye.